Alrighty, so week 11 is in the books, and instead of me to do the remaining 12 games that I haven't talked about from this week's action, because I already did the two matinee games back on Saturday in terms of the review, I'm only going to look at the Saturday night action, and I'll do the review of the Sunday game tomorrow, because I still have to wait to watch the highlights of the game between Atlanta United versus New England Revolution, since I wasn't able to watch that game since I was at work. And usually with these national televised games, it's usually release the highlights of the game on the MLS YouTube channel and also on the league website about 24 hours after the game finished. So I'll just wait until it is released, and once that is released, and also watch a little bit of the highlights between Minnesota versus the Seattle Sounders, because I did miss the first 30 minutes of that game. That's when I'll do the review of the two games that just happened today. But in terms of these 10 games that happened on Saturday night, well, there was definitely a lot of storyline. And, if you like goals, you were definitely in luck, because there were some games that there were a lot of goals that were scored, especially in the second half. And we also have a new leader in the Eastern Conference, and a perfect way to transition into our first game, because Montreal is the new leader in the Eastern Conference, albeit, yes, they're actually in a freeway tie in terms of the top of the Eastern Conference. But if you want to go with the tiebreaker, Montreal currently owns the tiebreaker over three teams that currently have 20 points in the Eastern Conference. And it's kind of hard to believe that Montreal is now leading the East. Consider just back in week number 3 of the regular season, they were dead last in the league. I mean, this team has really been not only been catching fire ever since they have exited CCL, but this is a run we have never seen Montreal have been on ever in their franchise history, and hence with them now winning 6 out of their last 7 games after this 2-0 win against Charlotte, they extend their franchise record of now 8 games without a loss in this season. Now, in the first half, not much really happened early in this game, though the first shot of the game did came in the 14th minute, and it was a good chance as Kalena had to rob Kyoto, who was through on goal here. Johnston then pulls it wide into the side netting before Torres did the same thing just a minute later. But there was no doubt that Montreal was pressing for the opener, and this was really something we have not seen an away team did against Charlotte ever since the Galaxy did it against Charlotte in a home game that Charlotte played, because in these last couple of games, I mentioned that Charlotte has been very good at home, and they have really built Bank of America Stadium a fortress. But in this one, I know this was always going to be a tough game against a red-hot Montreal team, but they were completely outplayed, at least in the first 30 minutes of this one. Torres then blazed it high from long range in the 36th minute before Charlotte finally had their first real opportunity, and in some way they almost scored against the run of play, as Shinishiki, who of course scored the winner last week and scored on his debut, he almost scored his second goal for Charlotte FC as he struck the post on the curler, and then on the follow-up, Franco had a chance to put it in, but he blasted that one high. And there was no doubt that Charlotte would start to show life, and that crowd, was relatively quiet for the first 30 minutes. They finally had something to cheer about. Świderski then had a long-range effort that goes straight to Breza, but then in the 45th minute, Montreal would get the opening goal, and it's Machweek scoring here from Kyoto and Torres to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. And I got to give props to Machweek here, because, he could easily just go and celebrate the goals that he scored, but it seems like he really was kind of a team player here, because he immediately went to Kyoto, who actually went down after this goal went in. And it seems like originally I thought Kyoto was holding his leg, which, whenever a player holds his leg, and especially on the replay that I saw where there was no contact whatsoever, yeah, that means the A word could potentially be used here in this case. But it seems like later on it wasn't actually a knee injury that Kyoto suffered, but more like a shoulder injury, as it definitely looked like he just dislocated his shoulder. I mean, you can definitely see the trainer was trying to pop that shoulder up, which is definitely not fun to do, but it seems like they were able to do so, though, as a precautionary reason, Kyoto did get subbed off in this game, and that let's just hope that for Montreal's sake, he's not going to be out for a lot, because he's definitely one of the more vital piece, alongside with Machweek, as a player that has been key to why Montreal has been just red hot so far in these last couple of weeks. But we do go to halftime with Montreal leading 1-0. And in the second half, Lapinainen had a chance to make it 2-0, but he curls it just wide from close range. Though on the other end, Schwiderski had a curler that just missed wide. And, Charlotte, they were definitely pushing for the equalizer. And the crowd, as I mentioned, they were into it when Charlotte was getting into this game. They were definitely into it now. But that crowd was silent in the 67th minute when Johnston would score from Kamara to give Montreal a 2-0 lead. That one came off the post and in, and I probably even should write a goal of the week with a question mark because that was so lovely strike there from Alistair Johnston to really silent of what was actually a great crowd in this game. I mean, this was probably the most attended game ever since when Charlotte had that 75,000 fans attend their home opener and their first ever home game in franchise history, because there was not a lot of blue seats that I've saw in the lower bowl at Bank of America Stadium. But like I said, that second goal really quieted them down. Though Piet did clear Bender cross off the line in the 70th minute before Rojo blasted wide. And again, Charlotte not giving up. That crowd once again were back on their feet, trying to will their team to get one back. Though Kamara did put it wide from close range in the 76th minute before Kalina denied Johnston, who trying to score his second goal of the game from close range. Briza then denied Affo, who basically put a knuckler off a shot that really kind of stung the palms of Breza before Rios heads it just wide from close range in the 88th minute. And in the end, Montreal able to get a good win in this one. And you could say this was a perfect road game for them. I mean, yes, they did have to deal with some pressure from Charlotte in this game, but they were able to score those key goals and walk away with a huge 3 points to extend this hot run that they've been on. But the shots in this one, 15 shots for the 13 that Montreal has, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Montreal has, 8 shots off target for the 5 that Montreal has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Montreal has had in this game. And if Montreal can continue the good run that they have, not only the fact that they're definitely going to get multiple players that get recognition at the end of the year with the end of the year award. I mean, I already mentioned Georgi Mihailovic, a player that is definitely in the running early now for MVP in the league. But how about Wilfred Nancy potentially winning the Coach of the Year? If he can guide this Montreal team to potentially finish first in the Eastern Conference. But that being said, moving on into the next match, we got NYCFC versus Columbus, and for NYCFC, they were able to bounce back by winning 2-0 in this one against the Crew. I mean, I don't know if bounce back is the right word because they technically didn't lose against Sporting KC, but it kind of felt like a loss with the way that they weren't able to find their clinical finishing. And in this game, you could argue they weren't that clinical again in this one, but at least they did just enough in this game to grab the 2 goals and get all 3 points in this one. Though early on, Zarian did put it high from close range in the 4th minute before Castellanos puts it just wide from 10 yards out. And then in the 9th minute, NYCFC take the lead. It's Talos Magno scoring from Santi Rodriguez to give NYCFC a 1-0 lead. And after that goal, NYCFC basically took over for the game. I mean, we've seen before when NYCFC can get the opening goal, you know that they're going to dictate how the game is. And Columbus was just kind of stuck in their own half after when they conceded the goal there. Though in the 24th minute, there was a half-hearted shout for a penalty from Columbus that was not given. Though Barry did have a deflection shot that goes wide from 14 yards out, and Columbus started to finally get into this game a little bit after the fact that they were pinned deep in their own half for a good spell period. Yoboa then skies one into the stands before on the other end, Gloucester blasted one into the stands in the 40th minute, and NYCFC, of course, head to halftime with a 1-0 lead. Now, in the second half, Castellanos trying to hit one away to give his team a 2-0 advantage, but he heads that one over the bar, and then Room had to tip Castellanos over the bar in the 52nd minute, and there was no doubt that NYCFC was pushing for a second goal, and you kind of sense that second goal was inevitable, that NYCFC was going to find it, because after Gloucester fired it over the bar from close range, in the 57th minute, Castellanos would get on the scoreboard as he scored here for Morales to make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC. I mean, that dynamic duo between Tati Castellanos and Maxi Morales are two of the most dangerous dynamic duo we've seen in this league. And also, so in terms of that play, I mean, what a ball that was from Maxi Morales. Kind of a classic Maxi Morales ball to play through Castellanos And then we know Tati Castellanos, the Golden Boot winner from last season, showing his class finish, chipped it over room and puts it into the back net to give NYCFC a 2-0 lead. Could have been 3-0 just 7 minutes later, as there was chaos in the Columbus box. I mean, there was a couple of opportunities that NYCFC could have slotted in, but they weren't able to do so. Zarian then had a rare Columbus second half chance, because up to that point it was all NYCFC. But he missed wide there in the 66th minute, and then Martins on the other end hits one straight to Rome there. I mean, I couldn't believe that Thiago Martins was shooting that one. Like, I was thinking, what is the center back doing there to hit that one from long range? Then Morales came close to get NYCFC the third goal. In fact, it was so close that it actually struck the post from the header. And then on the other end, Nagby had to clear Magno's shot off the line. I mean, if Nagby wasn't there, that clearly would have been 3-0 in favor of NYCFC. Then Zarian tried to do his trademark free kick goal. I mean, it's hard to believe that Zarian has came so close many times this season on the free kick, and unfortunately none of them actually has score, or none of them ends up into the back net. In fact, Columbus this season, I think they only have one free kick goal, and that free kick goal belonged to Pedro Santos. But Zarian was trying to add his name in terms of the latest crew player to score a free kick here, but he bends that one just wide of the post. And then Morales trying to score just a 30-yard screamer in the 88th minute, just kind of add the cherry on the top for NYCFC, but he missed wide there. And yeah, in the end, NYCFC with a comfortable 2-0 win in favor of Columbus. Almost said Columbus won 2-0 in this game, which wouldn't have made sense because NYCFC were head and shoulder better in this one. And the shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 9 that Columbus had, 6 shots on goal compared to none that Columbus had, 7 shots off target compared to 8 that NYCFC had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 7 that NYCFC had, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to 47% possession that Columbus has in this game. So, yeah, very professional performance here for NYCFC, even though I know that Ronnie Delia will be kind of a little bit frustrated the fact that his team didn't score more, especially with them having a lot of chances. But at the end of the day, if you can give all 3 points in any way possible, that's definitely a good thing, especially at home. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Vancouver versus the San Jose Earthquakes. So apparently the defense in this game decided they're just only going to play one half of soccer, because in the second half of this game, yeah, the defense basically were non-existent. Like, it feels like the defense decided to check out for both of these teams, and hence that's why we got a 6-goal thriller, as all 6 of those goals were scored in the second half. Now, in the first half, Montreal did put a free kick over the bar from 20 yards out before K-Cal puts it wide from 10 yards out. I thought it was a promising start for the Quakes, and keep in mind, this is a road game for the Quakes, and I've started to notice that the Quakes have played well on the road, especially in the first half, which that's something that I don't usually see with the Quakes. Like, they usually sometimes come off slow in the first half, but I feel like ever since Alex Carvalho has been the interim head coach with this Quakes team, they have definitely played much better on the road, albeit they've only played 2 road games so far this season under Alex Carvalho. But in the 20th minute, Cody Cropper had to deny Espinoza from 20 yards out before Yule puts it wide from 25 yards out. And then Cropper absolutely robbing Yule from close range in the 33rd minute. And it was kind of nice to see the Quakes are playing well and just kind of outplaying Vancouver in this game. But it was also kind of frustrating, the fact that they just could not put the ball in the back of net. I mean, part of that is Cody Cropper playing well in this one, and I think you can argue that maybe he might be locking down that number 1 spot before Thomas Hassel does come back from that hand injury, which we don't know when that is going to be the case. But like I said, the Quakes were playing well, but nothing to show for it, and that feels like that's going to come back to haunt them heading into the second half. Which, speaking of which, as we head to halftime 0-0, little do we know that this is when I mentioned the defense decided that they were not going to play for the rest of the game, because in the second half, Lopez basically struck the post from close range after just some terrible closing down from the Whitecaps. Then Mark Sinkowski had to deny Berhalter's shot that took a wicked deflection, and then in the 51st minute, Cavallini would open the scoreline for Vancouver here, and like I said, those missed opportunity that the Quakes had in this game, I just had a feeling it's going to come back to haunt them because, for the Whitecaps, even though they weren't in this game for most part of it, it only takes one opportunity, or in this case, it only took their second opportunity of the game to put the ball into the back of net, and the Whitecaps are now leading 1-0. Could have been 2-0 in the 61st minute if Mark Sinkowski didn't deny Cavallini as he went through on goal. I mean, Lucas Cavallini was a man on a mission in this game. I mean, you can clearly see that he definitely are hungry to score goals in this one. And also, I believe Brian White also played in this game, so it seems like Sartini decided to go with a two-striker system, which I'm not sure if this is the first time he has done that, but it's also a way that, maybe it does not really create that discussion of what's going to happen with Lucas Cavallini, because White has been the main striker for this Whitecaps team, and I guess maybe for Sartini, maybe he's just using a big brain move that, well, we're not going to create any number 9 controversy if we decide to just kind of play both of them at the same time. And again, Cavallini had a really good game in this one. He probably could have scored 2 goals in this. But in the 62nd minute, after that missed opportunity for the Whitecaps, the Quakes equalized. It's Montero scoring from Espinoza and Greg Rush to tie the game up at 1 apiece. This was probably one of the best games that Jamiro Montero had played in this, kind of showing some flashes of his days with the Philadelphia Union. And speaking of a player that is showing flashes of his old team, Jeremy Ebobisse. I mean, he, this season, I think we are finally starting to see the Jeremy Ebobisse that we saw when he was with the Portland Timbers, of being one of the most lethal and probably one of the more underrated number 9 in the league. And although it hasn't really shown up for the Quakes, at least for last season, because he did have that concussion, and also in the early part of this season, maybe it started finally showed up, because he scored here from Cal and Montero to give the Quakes a 2-1 lead, but that lead would be short-lived, because not just 40 seconds after the Quakes took the lead, Raposo would score from Caicedo and Cavallini to tie the game up at 2 apiece, but it wouldn't be tied long after, because Ebobisse would score again in the 81st minute from Espinoza and Cal, and this game, in a blink of an eye, was 3-2 in favor of the Quakes. Basically, just about 10 minutes ago, it was a tie game, and all of a sudden, it went to basically the scoreline being at 3-2. And this actually won't be the last time I'll talk about in this review where the scoreline quickly changed into a pinball machine, because we saw another game that kind of had that in the second half too, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, with the Quakes leading 3-2, you're thinking, well, they're going to pull it off. They're going to maybe get all 3 points, right? Well, you didn't watch the Quakes enough, because one thing I know about the Quakes is that they'll always find ways to blow it, and always find a way to snap victory out of their hands. And it happened again in this one. In the 90th minute, Godoy would tie it up for Vancouver and make it 3-3 in this game. And I wrote Cavallo made subs before the corner that was going to be taken for the Whitecaps. Big mistake. And I actually forgot to write big mistake on the parenthesis there, because he basically committed a cardinal sin here. I mean, when you basically make substitution, one of the cardinal sins as a head coach is that you do not make subs when your team is defending a corner or even defending a set piece, because that really messed up in terms of how you will defend a set piece. And here, it doesn't seem like Cavallo realized that is the case, and he basically bought in sub before the corner is taken. And it's no surprise the fact that the subs that he bought in was kind of confused of how to deal with the corner, and therefore the Quakes were kind of confused in terms of defending that set piece. And the Whitecaps basically made them pay for it. And yeah, the game was tied at 3-3. I mean, I also was not going to be surprised if Vancouver was going to make it 4-3, because I've also seen before where the Quakes can be up 3-2 late in the game, only to give up 2 stoppage time goal to lose the game. But that didn't happen. It ended in a 3-3 draw on this one. And the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 15 that the Quakes had, 7 shots on goal for the 6 that the Quakes had, 3 shots off target for the 5 that Vancouver has, 6 shots that was blocked for the 5 that the Whitecaps had, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Vancouver Whitecaps has in this game. And overall, I think for neither of these teams, they're going to be happy with this result. I mean, for the Quakes, it's hard to believe, but this is one of the rare times that I say that a point on the road feel like a loss. I mean, anytime when the Quakes can get a point on the road, it's always going to be a bonus, because this is a team that, as I mentioned many times before, do not do well on the road, but just feel like in this game they were just so close of getting that crucial first away win of the season, and then they of course give up the goal, and then for the Whitecaps, they'll be very frustrated at the fact that they had the lead in this game, and their defense multiple times just looked lackadaisy and allowed the Quakes to kind of retake the lead a couple of times in this game. Though I will say that on a positive note, at least in the Quakes' perspective, this team is definitely playing much better under Alex Carvalho, and I don't think that is a big surprise, because we knew that when Almeida basically was still coaching this team, he was definitely sabotaging this team. And although I think one thing that the Quakes still needs to work on, which is on the defensive part, and I'm assuming maybe in the summer or even in the off season, the front office is definitely going to address the issue with this defense. They can do that, I think this could be a decent team, because it is clear that when you look at this attack, I mean that's not been the issue this season. Their attack actually has been very, very good, and that their attack is also kind of the reason why these last couple of games, and even under Almeida, when the Quakes are playing at home, this team is not showing any quit whatsoever. I mean, and that is kind of something that I've been wanting to see the Quakes both home and away to do. I mean, if they don't get a win at the end of the game, if they can fight hard and play hard like they have done in these last couple of road games, and especially when they're playing at home, I'm going to be very happy about that. And especially now with the way that, again, I still don't think this team is going to get to the playoffs, even though I know there's some optimistic Quakes fans that are going to say that under Carvalho, this team have only lost once ever since his reign. But again, there's still, I know, yes, there's still a long way to go, but I'm not going to be baited in terms of this good run that the Quakes had. I mean, too many times I've been baited the fact that they're on a good run, and I'm just feeling like this team can potentially have a dropped off, and especially, as I mentioned, this is the reason why the Quakes are playing well, is partially due to the fact that the players seems to now finally break off the shackle of the Almeida reign, but also getting that new head coach boost, or in this case, the new interim head coach boost with Alex Carvalho definitely, for the most part, pushing the right button, except for this game where he definitely pushed the wrong button when he made the sub in the 90th minute. That basically caused the Quakes to give up the late goal and have some confusion on defending that set piece. But that being said, moving on, in terms of the next match, is going to be the Union and the New York Red Bulls. So unfortunately for the Red Bulls, they did fall short in terms of making history of becoming the first team to win their first 6 straight road game to start the season. Though, I guess maybe now that they're chasing a new record in terms of trying to go start the season on the road unbeaten with the most consecutive games, which I don't know exactly what the record of that is, but probably close in terms of that record too, because they got a 1-1 draw in this game against the Philadelphia Union, in a game where, the Union will be kicking themselves that they didn't get a win in this game, and especially some Union fans might be a little bit upset with the way that they had a disallowed goal late in the second half that could have won them the game and finally snap out of this 5-game winless run that they're currently on. But early on in this game, Edwards did head it straight to Blake for the Red Bulls, before on the other end, Cornell actually spilled a cross that was coming in, but the Union couldn't punish him for making that mistake. It was a very scrappy first half, which is kind of expected because, as I said, when I saw these two teams play in the playoffs and even in the regular season, these two teams are not known to play some entertaining soccer. These two teams tend to like to play that grinding kind of smash mouth kind of soccer and kind of physical play that, it's not going to be the most enjoyable for neutrals that is expected to have games that is similar to what I just talked about between the Whitecaps and the Quakes. Now, Bedoya did hit one straight to Cornell in the 35th minute before Blake denied Klamala from close range in the 41st minute, and we had to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. But we wouldn't stay scoreless long heading into the second half, because in the 47th minute, the Union would take the lead. It's Gastak scoring from Santos to give the Union a 1-0 lead. I mean, it has to be Daniel Gastak scoring for the Union. He's been really the main contributor on the goal-scoring department this season for the Union. And things got even better for the Union, because in the 55th minute, the Red Bulls would be down to 10 men after Dylan Nealis was showed his second yellow card, and actually I'm not sure why it says second red card. You can't get second in red card in this game. That was actually his second yellow card in this game, and that the Red Bulls were down to 10 men, and it seemed like the Union were looking to capitalize on that as Bedoya had a chance to make it 2-0, but he puts it wide on the volley. There was some furious action in the 59th minute as Carranza's shot was actually clear off the line by Sean Nealis, and then there was actually also an appeal for a handball as one of the shot coming in was blocked by one of the Red Bulls players, but nothing was given there. But there was no doubt, as I said, the Union, they were looking to put this game on ice and trying to get that second goal and have the man advantage, but that turns out to not be the case, because in the 65th minute, Laquinias would score from Harper and Fernandez to tie the game up for the Red Bulls. I mean, if there's one thing about the Red Bulls this season on the road, is you cannot count them out. Even when they're down to 10 men, and especially this season, for whatever reason, we have seen so many games when teams go down to 10 men, it really doesn't matter how the outcome is. They will always find a way to get themselves back into the game, and we're seeing it again here in this one, where the Red Bulls, despite a man short, able to find the equalizer to tie the game up. And then in the 80th minute, this is where Union fans would say that this is kind of a very controversial play, when Carranza basically put what looked like the second goal for the Union to retake the lead from them, but VAR basically disallowed it because of offside. And the offside actually was from Carranza, whom, when Cornell made this save, he did allow a rebound to Carranza, who basically was in the right place to put it in. But the problem is Carranza was in an offside position, and I think if Union fans can look at that the second time, I think they can maybe agree that, yeah, I don't think we got robbed in terms of that play, because it was pretty clear that Carranza was in an offside position after Cornell basically saved it. And for those that still don't know the proper offside rule, just because a goalkeeper basically makes a save doesn't mean it basically resets the offside situation. And in this case, again, Carranza was clearly in an offside position when Cornell basically saved this one and saved it right into the path of Carranza. But in the 83rd minute, Harper hits one straight to Blake as the Red Bulls were looking to try to steal this one. Martinez then blasts one wide from long range, and again, this game looked like it was up for grabs. I mean, both of these teams were definitely going for it to try to get that second goal, and late on, it looks like the Union were the one to do so, trying to capitalize that man advantage, and again, end their winless run that they're on right now. Gastak heads it wide from close range in the 3rd minute of stoppage time before Cornell had to deny Burke in the front post, and in the end, it ends honors even 1-1 between both of these teams. Shots in this one, 17 shots compared to 10 that the Red Bulls had, 6 shots on goal compared to 6 that the Red Bulls had, 8 shots off target compared to 2 that the Red Bulls had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Philly has. And in terms of the possession, Philly definitely had more of the possession, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that the Red Bulls had in this game. Again, not a big surprise, because the Red Bulls, after all, are the team that has the least amount of possession so far this season in the league, which again, maybe that kind of explains why they have been very good on the road, because when you're on the road, you're usually going to be the one that isn't going to control the play, and that you're going to rely on those counter attacks and maybe some set piece opportunity, and that's what the Red Bulls have been doing very well so far this season. But like I said, they came a little bit short in terms of becoming the first team ever in MLS history to start the season with 6 straight road win. But again, they have a chance to start a new record of starting the longest unbeaten run on the road, and if they can get a result against the Union, and as I mentioned, getting a result at Subaru Park is not an easy feat, then there could be a chance that they can still get more road wins, and that it's still going to be interesting to see when exactly is this road unbeaten streak that the Red Bulls is going to come to an end. But it also is the same case about their home form too, which again, this has been such a weird season for the Red Bulls, where for whatever reason they do well on the road and they're unbeaten, but they're winless right now at home. It just does not make sense whatsoever. But that being said, I am now going to switch sports and look at the next 4 games that happened in terms of the Saturday night action. But yeah, moving on, in terms of the next match, we got Chicago versus FC Cincinnati, and talk about another team in the Eastern Conference that has been on a tear and have got themselves high up in the Eastern Conference standing. How about FC Cincinnati? And how about the job and the miracle that Pat Nolan has been pulled off with this team? I mean, I know I've said this many times before, but the fact that this team, just this season, they are unquestionably playing the best that they have ever played ever since they came into the league a couple of years ago, and that if they can keep this up, I mean, this team, I don't think they're not only going to make the playoffs for the first time ever, but you can legitimately say that they could be our dark horse team if they can keep it up with the way that now that they have won 4 wins in a row and once again won a road game in this one against the Chicago Fire. Now, early on in the first half, Junior Moreno did tee one up, but it goes wide for FC Cincinnati before Vasquez puts it wide after just a bad turnover from the Fire. And yeah, for the Fire, they were very lucky they didn't concede a goal there, because anytime when you turn the ball over and Vasquez, as hot of a goal scorer he has been, and one of the big reasons why this Cincinnati team has been having an incredible year so far. Yeah, the Fire are very lucky that they didn't concede it in that play. But there was no doubt that Cincinnati have started out strong in this game, as it has been kind of been the case for most of the road games that they've played so far this season. And the first real opportunity for the Fire didn't came until the 24th minute, when Ofor missed wide from the header in the 24th minute, and then Shaqiri hits one straight to Salentano before Salentano denied Herbert, as the Fire started to woke up and were looking to try to press for the opener. By the way, Roman Salentano, another player that has been a huge difference maker for this FC Cincinnati team, and maybe quietly you could say that he might have started to play into the conversation of maybe being on the U.S. men's national team. I mean, that's how things can change, and especially with the U.S. men's national team. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about the situation with the number 9, but a lot of people have also talked about the goalkeeping situation right now, and that, you know, the goalkeeping situation for the U.S. men's national team heading to the World Cup in Qatar is very murky. But you know, there could be a case that Salentano could throw his name into the hat, especially with the way that he has looked like a guy that is in such a rich form, and has really quietly submitted himself to be one, if not the best goalkeeper in these past couple of games. Now, in the 33rd minute, Omsberg did heads it wide from the corner, and just as the Fire thought that they got the momentum, they concede on the other end. And unfortunately, this is an own goal by Shihos, the one that gives FC Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. I mean, it was a great header from Shihos there. I mean, he definitely heads that one well, but here's the problem. He heads it toward back of his own net, and I guess maybe he kind of lost where he was on the field, because I get what he was trying to do, trying to head it back to Slonina there, but I don't think he realized he was actually really close away from goal there, and he basically just heads it over Slonina head, and even though Slonina tried his best to maybe tip that one over, it didn't happen there, and Cincinnati was able to get a 1-0 lead, and you could maybe say it was kind of a little bit against the run of play, because the Fire was really looking threatening. And in the 39th minute, Acosta was able to fire one straight to Slonina before Salentano denied Mueller in the front post, as we head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Slonina denied Barrial in the front post before Vasquez tried to do an overhead kick, but he puts that one high. And once again, Cincinnati come out strong out of the half, though the Fire looked to trying to tie the game up in the 49th minute when Jimenez heads it wide from close range. And then fast forward into the 79th minute, Torres heads it wide for the Fire, as you know, the Fire was really starting to press to trying to get that equalizer, and they did in the 83rd minute, as Duran would score his first ever MLS goal from Shaqiri to tie the game at 1 apiece. But the equalizer would be short-lived, because in the 85th minute, Cincinnati would retake the lead, and it's Lucho Acosta that retake the lead for Cincinnati. But in many ways, it was an absolute gift from Slonina. I mean, you know, we talk about Gaga Slonina alongside with Roman Salentano, as I mentioned, are the guys that are kind of in that discussion of being the third goalkeeper and potentially be that crucial third goalkeeper that will be on the plane with the U.S. men's national team to Qatar. But yeah, this is definitely not a moment to get Slonina the nod to be that third choice goalkeeper, because yeah, he basically just passed this one right to Lucho Acosta. And I thought originally when Lucho Acosta basically got that, I thought he waited a little bit too long to try to get in, but in some way he was actually trying to dance those Fire defense, and that those defenders just cannot deal with that one, and eventually when Acosta to find enough space to basically just tuck one in, he was able to do so. And yeah, Cincinnati was leading 2-1 in this game. There was a huge shout for a penalty for the Fire in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, but you know, while that there was a huge shout for a penalty for that, Torres did blaze that wide from close range. By the way, that penalty was not given to the Fire. And then Ordonez hits the side netting from close range, as Cincinnati was trying to put an exclamation mark late in this one. But in the end, they walk away with their 4th straight victory, winning 2-1 in this one against the Fire. Shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 9 that Cincinnati has. 3 shots on goal compared to 5 that the Fire has. 8 shots off target compared to 5 that Cincinnati has. 5 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Cincinnati has. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. And while, you know, Cincinnati didn't really quite dominate the stat category, in fact, they pretty much went outstat in every single category, the Fire was not clinical in this game. And you know, that not clinical finishing, and also a combination of Salentano continue to look like a goalkeeper that is in incredible form, is the reason why FC Cincinnati is just in a rich of form that they're in right now. And also, don't look now, not only the fact that Cincinnati has got themselves up all the way to 4th, they're only 1 point behind Montreal in terms of the top spot in the Eastern Conference. I mean, I mentioned before the Eastern Conference, it feels like we're back into that logjam like what we saw last season. But Cincinnati is right in the mix. And, you know, if you would have told me that this team, especially with the start that they had, that they would be chasing for the top spot in the Eastern Conference, or even in the beginning of the year, if you would have told me at one point Cincinnati could be in 1st place in the Eastern Conference, you would think that I'm absolutely crazy. But this is why we love MLS, because in this league we've seen how it is a league of parity, and it is a league that has created some very big surprises. And this is not just the Eastern Conference too. I mean, when you look at the West, there are some teams that didn't make it to the playoffs last season, and now they're up there at the top of their respective conference. And yeah, I mean, it again just shows you that this league, the parity does exist, even though I know some people have said parity in this league isn't as much as what we've seen before, which in some way it is true. I mean, there are times where some of these resort has been predictable, but there's also many times where we've seen unpredictable resort, and especially teams that are not projected to do well, and teams that were supposed to be rebuilding all of a sudden find themselves near the top of the standings in the Eastern Conference, or at least near the top of it in Cincinnati case. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Miami versus DC United. So for about 45 minutes, this looked like it was going to be a good game for Inter Miami, getting a 2-0 advantage, and it looked like they were going to finally end their curse of not getting a win against DC United, but it did not happen. And overall, you know, even though they didn't get a win in this one, at least they can maybe celebrate that they got their 1st point against the DC United. And by the way, this game was actually delayed for about 80 minutes because, you know, this is South Florida, and that, you know, I joke about how Inter Miami always have game that is delayed, and they kind of lead the league in terms of the amount of weather delay. But, you know, so far this is only the 2nd time that there's been a weather delay for an Inter Miami home game, though again, that is definitely considered very high, and that I think they're almost higher at the rate than Orlando has some of their games being delayed, because Orlando is another location where it's notorious in terms of games that potentially could be delayed because of lightning. But yeah, the game of course was kicked off at 9:20 p.m. and really when the game did kick off, there was not much happening in the first 15 minutes. And again, this is not a big surprise, because anytime when you're a player and you're ready to play and you have to kind of sit there and wait until the referee feel like they can give the go sign for the game to start, it can be very frustrating, and it can take time to really get things going, because it really kind of throw off your rhythm of getting ready to start playing this game. So again, not surprised there was kind of some scrappy plays in the first 15 minutes, but in the 16th minute, the first shot of the game came as Funtas hits it wide. Taxi Funtas had another good game in this one, and again, he started to prove people that, you know, he is definitely the real deal for DC United in this team ever since they decided to sign him as a designated player. Now in the 24th minute, Hamid was able to deny Taylor from close range, but then in the 32nd minute, Miami takes the lead, and it's Leo Campana who, in the past couple of games, he didn't really look like his old self. He was definitely his old self in this game, as he scored here from Lassiter to give Miami a 1-0 lead. Funtas tried to quickly respond for DC, but he hits it straight to Calenda before Campana tried to score a second goal in the 42nd minute, but Hamid was able to deny him there. Though Miami did get a second goal in the 44th minute, as Damian Lowe would score here, and I'm not sure if this is his first ever MLS goal, because I know during his time with the Seattle Sounders, I'm assuming he has scored a goal before, but if that is the case, this is the first time he has scored in a very long time, as he scored here from the corner from John Mota to give Miami a 2-0 lead, though that lead would quickly cut into half in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. As in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, and I forgot to write the goal scorer in this, but it's actually Taxi Funtas, the one that scored the goal here from Estrada and Gresso. In fact, I'll probably do it right now. I want to give the respect to Taxi Funtas, of course, scoring the goal here. Yeah, there we go. Again, it's kind of a little bit weird that the assist people gets the bigger nod there, but again, didn't make a mistake, forgot to put the goal scorer there. But yeah, Funtas, of course, scored from Estrada and Gresso to cut that lead into half, and we head to halftime with Miami holding a 2-1 lead. Though it looked like it was 3-1 just 2 minutes into the second half, as Lassiter puts it into the back of the net, only for that goal to be disallowed because of offside. But I thought it was a positive start for Miami, and they were looking to try to restore that 2-goal lead, though. In the 53rd minute, Birnbaum did hit one wide from close range, and then Malta tried to tee one up from 23 yards out, but he missed just high. And then Calenda had to deny Funtas from close range. I mean, Taxi Funtas was everywhere for DC in this one. Chances definitely was coming for both of these teams. Lassiter strike one straight to Hamid in the 64th minute. Before in the 74th minute, DC get the equalizer. It's Ola Kamara scoring from Canals and Funtas to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Although that equalizer looked to be short-lived in the 82nd minute if it wasn't for Hamid denying Campana, who puts a wonderful volley from 10 yards out there, and that in some way Campana would be absolutely disgusted, that fact that he didn't score his second goal and give Miami a 3-2 lead. And then late in this game, we had a red card in this one, as Canals, of course, received his second yellow card of the game, and Miami did push late in stoppage time with a man advantage, hoped to get all 3 points late in this game, but it wasn't meant to be, as in the end, it's a 2-2 draw between both of these teams, and the shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 9 that DC had, 7 shots on goal compared to 5 that DC had, 3 shots off target compared to 1 that DC had, no shots that was blocked compared to 3 that DC had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that DC had in this game. So, for Miami, at least they kind of stopped the bleeding a little bit, because, ever since the good run that they had last month, they have definitely gone back to a losing run, but they at least kind of stopped the bleeding and finally getting their first result against a team that they have not done well ever since they came into the league. And for DC, I guess it's a good result for them too. I mean, anytime you come back from 2-0 down on the road and able to get a point out of it, it's always a great result, even if they weren't able to get all 3 points in this one. But now moving on, in terms of the next match, is Houston versus Nashville SC. So this was a game where Houston, of course, went up 2-0 in this game, though as the game goes on, it looked like Nashville was going to do their classic Nashville thing, which is, we've seen it before last season. Even when they go 2-0 down, you cannot count out this team, because they always will find a way to score two goals to get the equalizer, and in some way it looked like it was going to happen, but it never did. As Houston was able to get a much-needed 2-0 victory in this one over Nashville SC. Now, early on, we did get some in-stadium experience if you're actually watching this game, or at least from the highlights that I saw in this game, where there was no commentary or scoreboard that was playing this game. I mean, it was just a broadcast. They're just kind of like you watching at the stadium. And in fact, the first goal that was scored, they still had the issue with the commentator not being there and no scoreboard whatsoever. So you can even hear the roar of the crowd when Karaskia scored that goal for the Dynamo to give them a 1-0 lead, and I think that's kind of the first time I've ever seen that happen. Though, for some that of course watch this game and they want to see the scoreboard and also hear the commentator, they're probably left very frustrated the fact that of course is the case. And keep in mind, I didn't watch this game, so I'm not sure. Maybe there was some issue with the TV feed on the Houston side, because I know this won't be the first time we've seen this happen. Remember, last week we had the same issue in that game between NYCFC versus Sporting KC, where for a long time the Yes Network app was having some problem, and that there was no stream whatsoever, and then finally they eventually fixed it in the 32nd minute. And fortunately, there was no goal that was scored here, and if this is the same problem in this game, then yeah, that unfortunately, if you watch this live, you have no luck of not missing any action, because you did miss a goal here that Coco Carrasquilla scored to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. And then in the 35th minute, the Dynamo looked like they were in trouble, because Lundqvist would get a straight red in this one. Now originally they go to VAR to see whether or not if this foul on Mule was worthy of a red card, and I thought, when I look on VAR, and especially when they go to it, I thought that maybe they were going to overturn it, because you can definitely make a case that, on real-time look, it definitely looked like Lundqvist kind of put a studs-up challenge on Mule. But then when you take a look, slow motion, or even in a second look, maybe that isn't the case. I mean, it was definitely not a good challenge, but a red card, I feel like that is on the borderline of being harsh. But, the referee decided that he's not going to change the decision after looking at the screen. And yeah, Lundqvist was sent off, and Houston were down to 10 men for the remaining of this game. And then there was kind of a yellow card barrage, as 4 yellow card was shown in a span of 5 minutes. I mean, both of these teams were playing very angry after that red card that were shown. But we do head to halftime with the Dynamo leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Mukhtar fired one high from the free kick. And then Fafa Pico on the other end fires it wide, as the game kind of started to open up a little bit, which is kind of something that I don't think the Dynamo want. Well, actually, that kind of in favor of the Dynamo, because we know that this is a team that likes to play a game that is very free flowing, especially with the speed that they had on their team. But then in the 52nd minute, a penalty was given to Houston after Pico was brought down in the box by Willis. I mean, no doubt that was a penalty. You can clearly see Willis clip Fafa Pico in the box, which Quintero basically steps up, and he smashed the penalty here to give Houston a 2-0 lead. But like I said, this is Nashville SC. This is a team that is known for comeback, and in the 55th minute, after Sapon basically heads it wide from close range, he actually struck the post on the header that was coming from the corner. And I even wrote, it looks like Nashville was starting to try to start another comeback. I mean, they did it against Atlanta United in the U.S. Open Cup, and with them being a man up, even on the road, I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to do it once again. In the 64th minute, Clark had to rob Zubak, who had a free header from 5 yards out, and then Mukhtar basically skies one over the bar from close range. And you can definitely see Houston, they were not only on park the bus mode, but they were just praying the fact that eventually they can lock this game down, because it was just wave after wave of pressure that Nashville was putting. Zubak then fires it wide from close range, but little do we know that was actually the last chance, or the last real chance that Nashville of course had. And eventually Houston kind of locked things down, and Nashville kind of got a little bit frustrated the fact that they weren't able to get one back. And again, as much as Nashville is a team that's known for comeback, you don't get one back, the frustration is going to start to come into play. And that, I feel like if Nashville would have got one back during that barrage that they had between the 50th to the 69th minute mark, I won't be surprised this game would have ended 2-2. But because Houston were able to ride out that storm, they kind of frustrated Nashville, and in the end, that's why they were able to pull off a 2-0 win in this one. As the shots in this one, 8 shots compared to 12 that Nashville has, 2 shots on goal for the 4 that Houston has, 3 shots off target for the 6 that Nashville has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 62% possession compared to 38% possession that the Dynamo has in this game. And, for Nashville, they didn't play badly in this game. And again, some of those opportunities that they had, they'll definitely want to look back and wish that they can redo those chances, because they definitely had a couple of really golden opportunities, though Also, Steve Clark makes some big save in this game to keep his team in it. But for Houston, they need a much needed win because things started to kind of came back down to earth for them in the last couple of games, with them being on a bit of a rough patch. But for them getting a win in this game, especially against a really good Nashville team, and a team that looked like is in the ascent. And after they got their first ever home win against RSL at Geodis Park last week, I thought that they were going to maybe cause an upset in this one. But speaking of RSL, moving on in terms of the next match. So RSL, they bounced back after that tough loss against Nashville with a 2-1 win against Austin. Though, for Austin, they had a 1-0 lead in this game, and all they need to do is kind of just hold on. And even with them giving up a goal in the second half and them going down to 10 men, it looked like they were going to hold on. But then you got to remember, this is RSL, and there's one thing we know about RSL, especially from last season, is that this team will always find a way to get a winner late in the game. It happened again in this one. Now, early on, Tarbell denied Wood from close range, as I thought there was not much chances, as the shots were only one apiece for both of these teams through 20 minutes. But then in the 24th minute, we did see the opening goal of this game, as Alex Ring was able to score for Fagundes to give Austin a 1-0 lead. Now, there was definitely a shout for whether or not if this was indeed offside, and that when Fagundes played this ball to Alex Ring, you could argue maybe Ring was in an offside position, but seeing a couple of replay, I think it would have been just too close for them to overturn, and therefore the goal stand, and Los Verdes was able to lead 1-0 in this one. And in the 33rd minute, it looked like their lead was gone if it wasn't for Tarbell robbing Cordova after the ball was just kind of pinballing in the Austin box, and Austin was having trouble in terms of clearing that one away. And then in the 34th minute, Silver, I thought he should have scored here. I mean, he basically had a sitter from about 8 yards out, and I get it. He is a defender, and maybe you should give defender a little bit of slack when they have a chance to strike one from close range. But with the amount of room that he has there, even for a defender, he definitely should have done better there instead of blasting that one high over the bar. But again, RSL, I thought they have responded well ever since going down 1-0, and we're definitely pushing for the equalizer, but they weren't able to find it, at least in the first half, as we head to halftime with Austin leading 1-0. Now in the second half, things got even tougher for Austin to hold on to that lead, as Pereira would get a red card in this one, and it was actually a denial of goal score opportunity foul that Pereira had on Wood. And originally, RSL was screaming the fact that this should have been a penalty, and you could definitely make a case that was a penalty with the way that when Pereira brought down Wood. It seems like that one was inside the box, and originally I thought it was going to be a penalty, and maybe the red card that's shown to Pereira was because he didn't play the ball, but it turns out later it was actually just outside the box. And anytime when you foul a player and you're the last man back and you foul someone, yeah, it's basically dog. So, and Pereira was giving his marching order, and Austin were down to 10 men. Though Tarbell on the other end denied Wood from close range before Chang heads it straight to Tarbell in the 54th minute. I mean, you just kind of feel like the equalizer was inevitable for RSL in this one. And unsurprisingly, just 1 minute after I wrote that, they would get the equalizer. It's Michael Chang scoring from Miram to tie the game up at one apiece, and the momentum was definitely with RSL up to this point. Julio with a low-driven shot that goes straight to Tarbell, and as time kind of winds down, Austin was basically in full park the bus mill. Like, you can clearly see they was trying to escape the riot with a point out of this game, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so. And like many times this season for Austin, when they try to park the bus, it doesn't resort to a good success, because in the 88th minute, Andrew Brody would score from Julio and Chang to give Austin but RSL a 2-1 lead. I even wrote goal of the week with a question mark, because Andrew Brody absolutely smashed this one from outside the box. What a lovely goal that is that he scored here, and definitely going to be in contention for goal of the week. Though I'm not sure if it's going to win goal of the week, because as I'll talk about tomorrow, there was also another goal that was scored in that game against the Sounders and Minnesota United, but that one definitely will be in contention to do so. But in the 89th minute, RSL almost committed schoolboy error, because straight from the kickoff, Jerussi had an opportunity to tie the game up, but McMath was able to make an incredible save, robbing Jerussi from point blank range. And again, you're always the most vulnerable when you score a goal. And RSL almost got caught with that classic mistake, and almost Austin tied the game up at 2 apiece. And really, as the game winds down, it's now Austin's turn to try to throw in the kitchen sink, and RSL was just kind of hanging on for dear life. Jerussi had another opportunity in the 6th minute of stoppage time, but this one, it was a comfortable save for McMath from about 9 yards out. And in the end, RSL able to hold on. A late charge from Austin in this one, winning 2-1 in this game. And the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to 9 that Austin had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that Austin had, 2 shots off target compared to 3 that Austin has, 5 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 65% possession. And actually, this is wrong here. It's actually not 55% possession, because that would not equal 100% possession there. But yeah, compared to the 35% possession that Austin FC has in this game. And yeah, for Austin, they want to prove those doubters wrong, that the easy schedule isn't the reason why they're off to a great start to the season. And this is definitely another game that does not help their cases in terms of proving the doubter wrong, that they are a legit contender. Because again, we're going to find out a lot about this Austin team in these next couple of games, with them really getting into the toughest part of their schedule this season. And if they do not come out of that toughest part of the schedule above the red line, then we can basically safely say that their good run to start the season is mainly because they were playing against easy opponent. And that's nothing wrong with that. I mean, when you're a team that is able to get wins against easy opponent, then you can maybe still have a shot in terms of making the playoffs. I mean, in previous year, you could definitely make it to the playoffs by doing that way. I'm not sure about nowadays with the way that it's only half of the team make it to the playoffs, but it also basically means that you're not going to be taken very seriously when playoff time, because guess who you're going to be playing when you're playing in the playoffs? Oh yeah, that's right. It's against those tough team that it seems like so far Austin has really struggled to win against. But that being said, I am now going to switch forward and look at the last 2 games that happened in terms of the Saturday night action. So moving on in terms of the next game. So remember how I said this game in the preview that this is the desperation derby of the week? Well, one team was definitely desperate in this game, because wow, this turned out to be ugly in the second half. And it just feels like every single shot that the Portland Timbers took in the second half went into the back of the net. And even with that, it is still kind of shocking, the fact that heading into halftime, this was only a 1-0 game. And that Sporting KC was well in that game, but as the second half came, yeah, they were definitely not in this game anymore. And in fact, that 1-0 lead and that first goal for the Timbers came early in this one. In the 12th minute, Tuiluma basically scored from Williamson to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. And that actually was the first shot of the game for both of these teams. And also, the goal from Tuiluma didn't came from a free kick for once here. This one came from a beautiful ball delivery from Eric Williamson, which Tuiluma was able to put that one in to give the Timbers a 1-0 lead. Though on the other end, Espinoza was looking to trying to tie it up, but he fires it wide from close range for Sporting KC. And again, not much chances early in this one, as both teams up to that point was only having 3 shots combined, with the shots 2-1 in favor of the Timbers. But in the 44th minute, Melia did deny Nathan, who went through on goal here. And Nathan, of course, getting the debut for the Timbers, and he definitely would have an unforgettable debut for the Timbers in this one. But yeah, we head to halftime with the Timbers leading 1-0, and that whole meme "stop the count." I'm pretty sure Sporting KC fans are just screaming right now in the video to basically let's just not talk about what happened in the second half. But unfortunately, we do have to talk about what happened in the second half. And what happened in the second half was when this game basically turned into a blowout. And the goal-scoring barrage all started just 30 seconds in, as Sebastian Blanco would score from Paredes to give the Timbers a 2-0 lead. 6 minutes later, it will be 3-0 in favor of the Timbers, as Blanco would score again, this time from Jimmy Chara. And I should have put a wide there because his brother Diego Chara also got an assist later in this game, but we'll definitely get to that point. And then just 4 minutes later, Nathan would score his first career MLS goal from Blanco to make it 4-0 in favor of the Timbers. Though Russell did get one back from Felipe in the 57th minute, but really in a span of just 12 minutes into the second half, we went from a game that being a competitive game at 1-0 to now being a 4-1 game. And the goal-scoring barrage doesn't stop there, because in the 69th minute, Nathan would score his second career MLS goal from Blanco and Williamston to restore the 4-goal advantage for the Timbers and made it 5-1. And just to make this game even more crazier and just kind of a very MLS after dark kind of feeling, because I feel like, I know we've seen a lot of peak MLS after dark moment. This one probably is right up there with the way that, it was just incredible how many goals that was scored in such a quick pace. But in the 74th minute, we have a sending off with Van Rankin getting his second yellow card. And because, as I mentioned, with this being a peak MLS after dark moment, Sporting KC is going to capitalize immediately. And they did exactly that, as Zonas would score his first career MLS goal from Felipe to make this a 5-2 game. And even though, normally with a 5-2 game, you still don't give a chance for the team that down 5-2 to have a chance to get a result, but with the way that there seems to be a goal like every 5 minutes, maybe Sporting KC does have a chance with a man up. No. In the 78th minute, they also had a man send off as Velder become the latest player to receive his second yellow card. So we get some 10v10 soccer for the last 12 minutes of this game, and what we saw was more goals from the Portland Timbers, as Larea would score from Paredes to make it 6-2 in favor of the Timbers and tying the record for the most goals that the Timbers have scored in MLS. And just 4 minutes later, they would break that record. It's Moreno scoring from Diego Char to make it 7-2 in favor of the Portland Timbers. And that would be the final score of this game. I still cannot believe the fact that this game was like 1-0 at halftime. And all of a sudden, in a span of just 45 minutes, the final score of this one would be at 7-2. And I think this is also the second time that Sporting KC have lost by that scoreline, because I do remember back in 2019, they also lost 7-2 to the LA Galaxy, and that was a game I think Ibrahimovic had a hat-trick in that one. I might have been mistaken, but with Zlatan being Zlatan, I won't be surprised he actually got a hat-trick in this one. And also, speaking of hat-trick, the Timbers didn't get a hat-trick in this one, because again, it's basically like a tradition now for the Portland Timbers, where it feels like every time when a player is on a hat-trick, which Nathan and Blanco was, I think Savarese realized that, yeah, he's going to have to sub those players out, because how the Timbers don't do hat-trick, and that of course is the case. But nevertheless, this is the second time that Sporting KC suffered that score line since 2019. And just like in 2019 when they have a disastrous season, seems like they're heading that way. And you also have to say that now, more than ever, there is definitely a lot of discontentment between Sporting KC fans and Peter Vermes. In fact, I'm definitely hearing a lot of Sporting KC fans that is already starting a new chant called Vermes out. And I would have never guessed the fact that Peter Vermes would be a guy that could be on the hot seat. Whether if he is going to be on the hot seat after this result, I'm not quite sure. I think he's probably going to still be there. But I think SKC fans maybe have a rights to be upset about what Peter Vermes has done to this team. Because as much as he has done so much to this team, and he is the longest tenure head coach right now in MLS, you just kind of feel like the game has really kind of passed him, and that some of the tactics that he used and some of the substitution, well, actually not substitution, because we know Peter Vermes don't do substitution until like in the 88th minute, it has finally started to caught on to him. And yeah, this has just been a disastrous season for Sporting KC, and that, this kind of resort is really kind of a moment where if you thought that it couldn't get rock bottom for this team, they now have drilled into the bedrock level, and that they are on verge of potentially even having a worse season than they had in 2019. And for a team that, yes, I know they come into the season without Polito, but I don't think one player should just derail a team season. I know Polito was important to this team, but last season, when they had times where they did not have Alan Polito in the team, they were still doing well with both Sherry and Russell scoring the goal, and unsurprisingly, with them not really scoring the goals this season, even though I know Johnny Russell was on the score sheet in this one, and Sherry is kind of suffering a little bit of a second-year syndrome that he had after his breakout year in 2018, even though technically he has actually scored more goals compared to his disastrous 2019 season. And the fact that the defense, which has been a problem for this team and has really, they've been going for a downward trend the past couple of years. I feel like you can definitely see that these Sporting KC fans are absolutely fed up with this, and I don't blame them, because this is supposed to be a team that's supposed to be the standards for MLS, for a team that's been consistently making the playoffs and has been consistently good. This is something that is very odd to see how bad this team has gone, and that, yeah, what do you do now with them for the rest of the season? Like, how, it's easy to say that it's just one game for them, but this is just something that it's been building with the way that like this season. It just looked like it's a team that, it got off to a slow start, but you hope that they can turn around, but just feels like now that they can't do it. And especially now that this season, they don't really have the excuse like they did in 2019, where I think one of the reasons why they were so bad in 2019 was because of that deep CCL run. And we talked about before, where when teams go to a deep CCL run, they turns out to kind of punt the league and have a disastrous season. And this year they don't have that excuse, because they're not even in the CONCACAF Champions League. But yeah, we'll see how they're going to basically fix things up. But for the Portland Timbers, a much needed win for them, and that offense that has been very sleepy throughout this season has finally broke through. Like, they have literally scored almost the same amount of goals that they have scored for the entire season right now. And that, I know it's very easy to kind of get overexcited if you're a Timbers fan about getting a big result like that. You got to remember, it's only one game. Like, you only get 3 points despite scoring 7 goals in one, and let's see whether or not if they can carry that momentum heading into that midweek game against the Quakes. And by the way, the stats in this one, only 11 shots for both of these teams. Again, this was kind of a game where as I mentioned in the second half, every shots that the Timbers took, it basically went into back of net, and they ended up having 7 of those 8 shots on goal being in the back of net, compared to just 4 that Sporting KC had. 2 shots off target with the 3 that Sporting KC had. 4 shots that was blocked with the 1 that the Timbers had. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Portland Timbers had. But anyhow, let us actually now talk about the last game of week 11 of the Saturday night action. Is the LA Galaxy versus FC Dallas. And in this game, Dallas basically just blitzed the Galaxy in the first 22 minutes of this game, and also for the first 22 minutes, that Galaxy defense decided to go back to 2021 form, and that's kind of the difference in this one, and pretty much getting the 3-1 win. And you maybe even say that they could have got a 4th goal, because there were chances themselves besides the 3 goals that they scored inside 22 minutes to really kind of put this game out of reach. But as I mentioned in the first half, and that blitz all started in the 10th minute when Jesus Ferreira, a guy that, you got to say that he maybe is going to be that guy that's going to be leading that number 9 position for the U.S. heading into Qatar, because, when you look at the number 9 position the U.S. men's national team had to deal with, the only guy that is really scoring goals and are just red hot right now is Jesus Ferreira, as he scored here again from Obrian and Tomasi to give Dallas a 1-0 lead. Costa did have a 1 hopper that goes straight to Jimmy Mara. Jimmy Mara, of course, starting in this game for the first time this season, ever since he kind of lost his job to Martin Paus. And I thought he had a good game in this one, even though now he is kind of just being back to being a backup goalkeeper. Mara then denied Chicharito as he pushed that one onto the post. And actually, the Galaxy was appealing that ball actually crossed the line, because with the way that Mara basically catched that one when it bounced off the post, it looked like that one crosses the line. But, they didn't go to VAR to look at that, but they did show a couple of replay, and yeah, it was incredibly close, probably too close to basically call and overturn that one. And especially with the way that there's no goal line technology in MLS, that's kind of the only angle you can see, and I just don't see how that one is going to be overturned. But in the 20th minute, Dallas would take a 2-0 lead, as Ariola would score from Palmico to make it 2-0 in favor of Dallas. Again, the Galaxy basically decided to go back to 2021 defensive form, because this was exactly the same kind of bad defense I've seen them from 2021. Just a poor turnover in the midfield from the Galaxy defense, and the opposition just punished them because of that. And then just 2 minutes later, more 2021 Galaxy defense moment happened, as Jesus Ferreira would score his 2nd goal from Marco Farfan. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that there was some miscommunication between Gaspard and Bond. And actually, I think this was more on Bond's fault, as he came off his lines there. And anytime when you're a goalkeeper and you're sprinting off your line to try to get it, you have to get it. Because if you do not get it, you are basically in deep trouble. And in this case, Bond didn't get to it. Ferreira basically rounds him there with a heavy touch. And Ferreira with probably the easiest finish he can have to put that one in. And just like that, it's 3-0 in favor of FC Dallas. And if you're a Galaxy fan, you're pretty much saying that that's pretty much game, set, and match. Because we know that this is a team that have struggled to score goals lately. And that, 3-0. I mean, if they actually had Chicharito going, which, in this game, Chicharito unable to get on the score sheet again. That's now, 6 games without a goal for him. And that he has started to kind of go back to the 2020 form of Chicharito, where that was the version of him that really had the most frustrating year of his career. Though it was not for a lack of trying, as he actually had an opportunity in the 31st minute, but he fires that one over the bar before Alvarez had a deflected shot that goes wide, as the Galaxy was trying to press one back. But we do head to halftime with Dallas leading 3-0. And then just 2 minutes in, it looked like it was 4-0 when Matt Hedges buried that one, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed for offside, and rightfully so. O'Brien then fired one high as Dallas was trying to push for a 4th goal. And Sembin then fired it high from close range in the 53rd minute. And then on the other end, Williams almost give the Galaxy a goal back as he struck the post on the header, and then Joveljic hits one straight to Maurer. And again, the Galaxy, after a slow start into the second half, kind of woke up and were looking to try to get one back, and they would eventually get one back, as in the 67th minute, Douglas Costa finally scoring again for the Galaxy from Sasha Kleshin to give one back for the Galaxy. And unsurprisingly, this came off a set piece, because it seems like Douglas Costa, he can only score set piece goal for the Galaxy nowadays. But there was no doubt that the Galaxy had some life and had some momentum with them. But the question is, can they carry that momentum and maybe get a second goal? The answer is no, because they really didn't do much for the last 20 minutes of this game. In fact, Dallas had one real last opportunity to restore that free goal advantage, as Hara actually went through on goal, but he hits one straight to Bond. And in the end, Dallas was able to win 3-1 in this one of the rare wins that they have on the road. And the shots in this one, 13 shots for the 9 that Dallas had, 5 shots on goal for the 4 that Dallas had, 6 shots off target for the 2 that Dallas had, 2 shots that was blocked for the 3 that Dallas had. And possession-wise, 60% possession compared to the 40% possession that Dallas has in this game. And again, for the Galaxy, I think there's definitely some concern after this game, and that, I know, yes, some might say that, well, they're near the top of the standings, but when you look at these last couple of games, even with some of the wins that or even with that win that they have against Austin, there's a lot of red flag of the fact that this team has started to have a similar season to what we saw last year, where they started hot, but then they eventually fall apart because either Chicharito was injured after he was in probably the best form of his life, or in this case, Chicharito is not producing goal. And we know that this team on the offense, it's Chicharito or bust, and right now it's not a big surprise that they're not scoring more than 2 goals because of the way that Chicharito is once again go in a cold spell. And unless they can't get their Talus number 9 going again, yeah, this could be a very similar tale to what we saw in 2021, because their defense, although they're holding firm, we saw the similar situation with the Chicago Fire, where your defense can only do as much until, if your offense continue to not produce, they're going to buckle under pressure. And, right now, hopefully, if you're in the Galaxy perspective, this is not a beginning of a trend where that defense is started to buckle and started to look like what it was last season, which was not a good defensive team whatsoever, as it has always been the case for this Galaxy team. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think these 2 games and also the other 8 games that I review. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.